Hello everybody, this is Matthew and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be reviewing Saga number 54 by Brian K. Vaughn and Fiona Staples. This book is a complete shocker. Anyone who's been reading this book for any bit of time is going to be completely surprised and shocked at the ending of this. And I think people are definitely going to be upset as well at what happens in this. Not because it was badly written, but just because of what happens. This book is a complete tragedy. And even building on the tragedy from the previous issue, where one of the characters, it goes all the way back to the first issue, was decapitated at the end of 53. It gets worse from here. And worse still, this book is going on hiatus, and not for the 3 months that it usually does between 6-issue arcs, but for at least a year, according to Brian K. Vaughn. So, what can I say about this without giving away too many spoilers? Well, there's not a lot of things I can compare this book to. The only thing recently that I can think of is the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. If you did not know what was going to happen in that episode, or you didn't read the books coming into it, it was a complete shocker. The audience doesn't know until it's far too late what is going to happen to the Stark family at this wedding. So, and I think this is the same thing with this issue. I don't think anyone was expecting what happens in this issue to happen. Now, here's how I'm going to do this video. I'm going to talk about the issue up until the point where where this tragedy happens. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to do my analysis of it and what I thought of the book. And at that point, if you don't want any spoilers for what's going to happen, you can turn the video off. Or if you want to know how this ends, keep watching after that. So, let's talk about some of the themes in this book. Obviously, it's a tragedy. Obviously, there's going to be deaths. This book is read cover to cover. It's very hard to make out the titles even on this. You can see the titles are a slightly different color red. Additionally, Marco, one of our main characters, is wearing red. And of course, as the issues progresses, this whole scene that it takes place in gets bloodier and bloodier. So we have red all over the place. It's kind of a warning sign of what's to come. It sets kind of an atmosphere, a mood for this whole issue. So let's get into this and take a look at what's going on in this issue. Okay, here we are right where we left off last issue. Marco has just seen the death of Prince Robot at the hands of a former bounty hunter, the Will. Here we are, the gory remains of Prince Robot. Prince Robot killed the Will's lover very early on in the series, and now that the Will is caught up to him, Prince Robot bargained for his life in exchange for Marco, his wife, his child, and the people they were traveling with. The Will, of course, simply didn't care. This is narrated by Marco's daughter, who is the narrator through most of the series, as an older person recounting this tale. And as you can see, this book gets more and more red. The mood shifts towards anger, towards passion. You can see that passion in his eyes as he charges the Will. Definitely Prince Robot was a very despicable character to begin with, but we've started to sympathize with him as he's been forced to travel with everyone else after his exile. We do have some great artwork by Fiona Staples here. The rest of this issue, the rest of this issue is pretty much the fight between Marco and the Will. It's brutal, this battle. Marco definitely gets the upper hand. in this. Again, this is just a big fight up until we can see that this is very bloody and brutal. There's not a whole bunch to say. There's not much dialogue. This is just one big fight. This is the last page that I'm going to show. Marco gets the upper hand here. He gets the Will knocked down and what it looks like unconscious, and he's about to strike the killing blow. And everything has been incredibly red, incredibly fiery at this point. You can see he's ready to deal the blow. And then he kind of comes to his senses. You also see a very big shift in the issue as well. The backgrounds, which were very red, have shifted back to their natural colors. Marco's come to his senses. He's doing the right thing by not killing this person. Unfortunately, this is not going to bode well for him, and we're going to find that out very, very shortly in this. So I'm going to stop here because I don't want to reveal the ending just yet. I want to talk about this issue. The one thing I do want to point out at the very end of this, which one of the things I really didn't like, this is the last page. It's actually the last two pages look like this, although the page before this does have the words "to be continued" on it, and that's it. This page is just blank. Now, I understand why they're doing that. The point of this is that you're fading to black or fading to white like they do on television and movies. You've seen it plenty of times before. A main character dies or some tragedy happens, and it just fades to black or white, and the credits roll in silence. I don't think it works here because it's 2 pages that we could have had some story, or we could have had reactions from some of the characters, or we just could have had a longer story. So I don't think it works here. In a book that's already only 20 pages, adding extra pages of blank, it just doesn't help any. So this issue has been just a wild ride. My reaction to it is that it's shocking. I wasn't expecting what happens next, and I don't think very many readers will, unless they've already read ahead or listened to spoilers on it. This is a tragedy story in the making, and it's really emotional when it hits you at the end of this issue. So it's definitely good there. This is going to upset a lot of fans. I definitely know that, because we've come to care about a lot of these characters, and everything is falling apart at this point. And on top of that, in lieu of the letters page, Brian K. Vaughan has an explanation of what's going to happen with the book. Basically, they're taking about a year or more off to kind of catch up on their personal lives and kind of get the next set of stories together. So that's fine, but a year is a very long time in the comic book world. Saga sells really, really well for an Image book, but what's going to happen after a year, I don't know. Is it going to come back with the same audience? There's going to be a lot of people that forget about this book, and people that might have moved on to other things in the meantime. This hurts the chances of this book continuing to its conclusion if sales get too low and it becomes unprofitable. So I feel like they really need to be careful when they make a decision to hold off a full year on this. Obviously, there'll be the trades that come out for the last story arc in a few months, but that's pretty much going to be it from this creative team on this story. I didn't know how many issues this was going to be when it started, but it looks like it's going to be open-ended at this point. Now, that might change if sales get low. Saga has found a very strong audience, so the sales have pretty much been stable for a very long time on this book, but a year's a long time, like I said. The other thing about this book, I highly recommend this story. It's a good story, although a little bit short. I would probably pick up at least the last issue or this last arc if you haven't. Now, they always a few months later release trades, so you can always pick it up that way. But It's a little bit short. It's a very good story, though. It's very well written. The artwork is spectacular. There is one caveat on this book, and I have to mention this because it is an adult title. This is not a title for kids. As you can see from the pages that I just showed, it's very violent. But there's one page that I skipped over with some nudity as well. And some of the nudity in this book is very gratuitous and borders on pornography. You can definitely look it up. It's even been in major journalistic publications that a book has this kind of explicit material. And my critique on that is that it's not good. There's obviously people that like that kind of thing in comics, but it wasn't done to advance any of the stories. It was simply gratuitous sexual content or nudity for the sake of it being there. It didn't help. It wasn't. There wasn't a lot of good reason for it. I won't get into. This book had one panel with some nudity from an alien creature that's part woman, part spider with multiple breasts. So if that's something that you want to avoid, don't pick this one up then. But if you're okay with that, the occasional nudity and the occasional, it's not really hardcore. You don't see any type of penetration or anything, but you definitely see full nudity from both men and women in this story, and other things too. I should probably add, since this is a science fiction fantasy story that takes place in another galaxy. So if this is something that sounds interesting to you, it's a good story. Pick it up. The trades for the whole series are going to be out by the time September, October rolls around. So you'll be able to pick up the whole series if it sounds interesting to you. But again, remember, this is it for another year. So this is the end of the spoiler-free part of the video. If you don't want to continue forward, I completely understand. I wouldn't want to either if I hadn't already read the issue. But if you want to see what happens at the end of this issue, stick around. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Alright, so here we are. Marco has decided that he is not going to kill the Will. He's unconscious there. Marco turns away. And here we go. The Will gets up and kills Marco, our hero. And this is it. He is dead. We get a few more pages where everyone is unaware. We get kind of a flashback from pre-death. And we get from Hazel, his daughter, some very, 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 very interesting words here that really sum things up and really make this a sad ending. She says, it's not like I grow up to be some great war hero or any sort of important savior. But thanks to my parents, at least I get to grow old. Here's the last page. Not everybody does. And there's her father, dead on the ground, red suit, red blood leaking onto the floor, reddish colored floor. This is quite a death scene. And then we get, of course, to be continued, and then the next blank page. All right, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.